Hello, my name is Derek Shaw. Thank you for choosing this bitmessage tutorial. My thanks to Charles Hoskinson, who asked me to put this bitmessage tutorial together. In this tutorial, we will be looking at what bitmessage is, its advantages, its disadvantages, the email network as it's perceived to work, the peer-to-peer network, a simple overview, using how to use bitmessage, what I think is cool about bitmessage, the bitmessage resources, and a summary of what we have just learned. So, in this tutorial, what is bitmessage? bitmessage is a cryptographic-based client and server-based system based on the principles of Bitcoin. The system is decentralized and requires no post office servers to send and receive messages. What do I mean by that? Well, when you have an ordinary email system, you are required to log on to a central server with your details that tie you to the messages that you send. It often requires something like POP3 to receive your emails and SMTP, or some variation thereof. The bitmessage system requires no such service. You can just simply run it as an application on your desktop, and you can send and receive messages without any additional configuration. Each address is cryptically generated and the message encoded before it is sent. So the bitmessage address is very cryptic, it's very long, it's often unpronounceable. In fact, I haven't come across one that is pronounceable. And the message can only be read with a recipient that you have agreed between you to receive and correspond with. Much like Bitcoin, individuals may use as many bitmessage accounts as they wish. All individuals using the network are anonymous unless otherwise known to one another. In other words, if I was to go and see my friend Peter, I already know that person and he knows me. Once we've exchanged a public address between us, we would be known by one another. However, if we were to correspond with someone that we didn't know or didn't want to know or be known by, provided we could find a suitable means with which to exchange the bitmessage address, we may only be known to each other by that bitmessage address. So no names need be specified unless you want to be known as a person or an individual. The advantages of bitmessage. Well, all accounts are free. You can have as many accounts as you want or as many accounts as you can care to deal with. There are no service charges. The bitmessage accounts, once created, cannot themselves be blocked by an ISP. An ISP may suspend your network completely, and they may have reasons for doing so, but that would not actually have any effect on your message account. You could go elsewhere, you could activate that message account quite easily, quite simply, and then continue to send your message from another location without any difficulty. Only individuals you have given your public address can post messages to you and you to them. There is no spam associated with bitmessage, at least not yet. That doesn't mean to say that it won't be, but certainly for now there are no bitmessages that have any association with spam, and in principle it might be difficult to send such large quantities of spam because of the principles of proof of work. All messages sent and received are encoded using proofs of work, the very fundamental principle of Bitcoin. Software is written in Python. It's completely open source and can be written in a variety of different platforms. Sorry, it has been written on a variety of different platforms already. Certainly it is available for Windows, Macs I'm not so sure about. I believe there is a application to run on the Mac system. In principle it should be the same as the Linux system, as the two are very similar. Disadvantages of bitmessaging. Well, the generated addresses are very long and they are very unpronounceable. So unlike derek@soslug.org, which is my email, there's no such corresponding name that you can assign to a bitmessage address. You would have to copy it 100% correctly. You would have to forward that by some means in order for the recipient to be able to respond to your inquiry. So this goes on for what I was saying before. You require a standard means by which you can convey the standard existing means by which you can convey your existing or your new message address, either in writing, email, or some other form of messaging. The current build of bitmessage is version 0.3 and does not directly support attachments. It doesn't have a little paperclip, for example, or the word attachments or anything like that. As I understand it, you can put base 64 encoded messages within the message system, but you're limited to 180 megabytes for a start, and it would take an extremely long time to encode that message because of the proof of work. Each message is encrypted, and the time taken will depend on the length of the message. So obviously if you've got 180 megs of data within your message because of an attachment, it's going to take a lot longer than a short message that you use by way of text to encode that message. I believe there are some protocols that you can use to formulate your message, but these are very different to the email protocols that you can use for formatting. Each address can be assigned an alias, but only at the client end. So your client application, you can assign aliases to each address. These may be completely different to the recipient, who will have his own identifying labels for each of the addresses that he's got. Even if you share an address that is known to the both of you, the labels themselves would be different. So the labels themselves are not transmitted with the bitmessage address. Only the long chain unpronounceable bitmessage address is transmitted along with the message itself. There are no guaranteed delivery times. However, as more users join the network, the delivery times should in theory improve. However, the network itself will only hold on to your message for a maximum of 2.5 days before it reports back that it can't be delivered. Existing email delivery. Well, many of us, many non-technical users, perceive email to work from A to B and from B to C and so on. That's not quite how the email, current email delivery does indeed work. A better analogy would be that you have a central server which are all plugged into, and that you share the resources of this central server. But again, such a server would be truly vast. So what tends to happen is that you yourself have a server that you log into that identifies you as the user and as a suitable person to deliver mail to the recipient. The recipient, on the other hand, will have their own email server that identifies them as authorized to use that server, and then you will have subsequent relaying servers between them that just pass the message on until it reaches its proposed destination. Peer-to-peer networks, on the other hand, work a little bit differently. Each one of these computers is a node, and these are desktop computers, not servers. So in theory, it is possible that your message, your bit message, could be replicated to each and every single one of the nodes. That's not quite how it works in principle, as it will tend to take the shortest path for a given time, and to replicate across on all of these servers all at the same time is simply impractical. So it tends to take the shortest path to deliver the email and will be dependent on the nodes that are on the network at the time. So how do we use bitmessage? Well, it's not that dissimilar to an existing email client. In an existing email client, you will have your message displayed with from, to, subject and message composition. In bitmessage, it's exactly the same. You have already your recipient address. The only difference is you can choose which recipient address you wish to be known by, and this will be determined by a label that you associate it with, because there will be so many possible long bit addresses, you may not actually recognize the right one. So a label can be quite important. However, the label isn't transmitted at the time of sending, just the address, so that the recipient can respond to your inquiry. Now, in order to extend this further, you will need to stick in a subject and enter the details of your conversation in the main display. You then click on the send, and that message is sent to the recipient. The recipient can then respond to yours. So the recipient need do nothing more. He doesn't need to acquire your bit message address, because he's already received it using the message that he's received from you. So all he's got to do in effect, or she has to do, is respond to that, and immediately he's already got all the details that he needs. He can respond to your inquiry, and your conversation can continue in whatever limited fashion you wish. Once both addresses have been exchanged with one another, you can store them in your own address book, assigning your own labels to that address so that you know, or may know, who that person is. or you can assign a label that identifies them without knowing truly to whom that message comes from. So what's so cool about bitmessage? Well, each bitmessage address generated is unique, completely unique. As soon as you believe an address has been compromised, you can just generate a new one, very simply, very quickly. The contents of your message are only known to those to whom you decide to subscribe or communicate with. You give the bitmessage out to those that share the network with you, and you can then correspond using bitmessage without having to use a central server. In principle, the data that's on there is extremely private. However, the message itself can be traced by way of your IP address and by the route taken. So it is still possible to identify who that person is that sent the email, but there are a number of methods that you can employ to secure that data further. For example, you could use Tor, which is a proxy by which you can send your email service, your email message to the recipient, and it will be a lot harder, if not impossible, to trace from where this bit message actually came from. You could use a live CD to launch your email address, and that would basically destroy your bit message unless you keep the machine on all the time. As soon as it's turned off, as soon as power is removed from the system, there is no way that you can retrieve that data from a live CD. The software is open source. You can improve it, you can change it, you can adopt it, you can fork it. It's covered under the MIT Massachusetts of Institute Technology license, but it is open source nonetheless. If any single or multiple nodes are attacked, disrupted or shut down, the network itself remains intact. It has a high, what we call a high level of redundancy. So whilst your service may be cut by the internet service provider, that doesn't stop you going to an internet cafe, running bitmessage from there and connecting your email client, because the client itself you can run from anywhere. It's only a client application. You can attach to the peer-to-peer networking that way, and you can obtain the messages that have been sent, provided you haven't been off the system 2.5 days. What I think is really cool about bitmessage is that it uses proof of work as an encryption method, which has already been built into the client server, so you don't need a plugin, a PGP privacy plugin to keep your messages private, or documents for that matter. Okay, so the bitmessage resources. Well, you can download bitmessage from the following location. That's bitmessage.org. You can also seek further assistance from an article that I have written on my own website, which is sosag.org wiki.bitmessage. Feel free to comment on there if you are having problems with the installation or running of this particular software, then please leave a comment. I do read all comments and respond to them, and I'll be happy to assist you. Clearly, SoSlug though is aimed at Ubuntu and Linux in general users. I don't lend support to Windows users as a general rule, but if you were to write to me directly, I will assist you any way I can, and in order to get you up and running as quickly as possible. Now, my bitmessage address, this rather long-winded cryptic message address, you can copy, you can paste, you can put it into your bitmessage client, and you can send me a message if you wish. However, it is very, very case sensitive. If you do choose to write this, then be very aware that it is case sensitive, that it is using a combination of upper and lowercase characters, numbers, etc. A better way to obtain this bitmessage address is to drop me a line at derek@soslug.org, and I'll be happy to send it to you. In hindsight, I think this is the best way. So in summary, this tutorial has covered what a bitmessage system is, the advantages and disadvantages, a simple overview of the email and peer-to-peer networks, how to use bitmessage, what is cool about bitmessage, and your bitmessage resources. This in essence ends my tutorial, or the first part at least, on how to use and some information about bitmessage. In the second part, we will be looking at running the application, where I'll be talking through to you how to not necessarily install, but how to use bitmessage. It is just a simple overview, and we will discuss some of the components that make up the client application. And that's it. Thank you very much for joining me. Come on.